Well, where does that leave us, ladies and gentlemen? The Formula One Singapore Grand Prix. A little flat, but there's some interesting stuff we need to get through, and we're going to unpack all of it right here, right now on the Peter Wells Show. Okay, what the hell's going on with Mercedes and Toto Wolff and George Russell? What's the plan here? We've got a driver who's carried that team through the Hamilton transition, let's call it, okay? Fought for results in a car that's been moody as a teenager, and yet no contract, no deal, nothing, no confirmation, nothing. If this was Hamilton, they would have not let this go the whole way. Not a hope in hell. 7 races to go. We're nearly going into Christmas here, lads. And no signature? Do you know how insecure that makes you feel? That's like proposing to your girlfriend, will you marry me? And she's to go think about it. And you're waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. I'm telling you, this is how awkward it can be. That sort of, well, I don't want to be around these guys now. What the hell? And, okay, by the time we've aired this, we've just watched the Singapore Grand Prix, and look, maybe there's an update, so guys, you'll have to forgive me if there has been an update or any developments but before I've recorded this. But right now, there hasn't been any. You know, on the surface, it should be easy. Russell, he's quick, he's British, they love that, he's proven. He's the natural choice. He's the face of Mercedes at the moment now that Hamilton's gone. And so why the hesitation? Why the radio silence? There's only two explanations here. Either they're giving Antonelli that seat because they want the young blood, the next golden boy, or they're waiting for something bigger. They're waiting for something bigger. And that bigger could be Max Verstappen.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front. What a move from fifth all the way to the lead in lap one.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter. Walsh. Now, that might sound crazy, lads, but think about it this way. The politics in this sport runs deeper than the asphalt itself, lads. You know, Toto's not playing for 2025. He's playing for 2026. And he knows the new regulations are coming. He knows that Mercedes is probably best shot at getting back to at the top to get the best equipment out of all of his other investors, his manufacturers, right? People giving him resources, is having a proven world champion in the door. You get better equipment. You get better attention, okay? It does happen. And if Red Bull implode, which it looks like things have calmed down, that Horner's gone, but if they do implode again, that just means that they just got rid of the good guy while the bad guys pretended to be the good guys. But we'll find out. We'll find out. Let's not pretend here, lads. Let's not forget either. Toto, he's been here before. When Hamilton was on the market, he didn't hesitate. And he went all in. He saw the chance to poach, you know, a really good, really experienced driver. And Niki Lauda obviously pounced on him too. They wanted to build a dynasty, you know, a dynasty, sorry. He's always been patient when it comes to drivers. You know, he plays chess while the rest of the grid plays checkers. He's that type of guy. He's a very smart man. And look at the Antonelli situation. 18, untested. He's doing well, very, very well. But Mercedes are rolling out the red carpet. Full access, best engineers, best equipment. They want him polished. They want him ready. They want him to be a stone cold assassin, lads. And I think this guy's going to be the Mercedes' future. What's the plan? Well, I'll say it. Toto's waiting for Red Bull to eat itself alive. Waiting for Verstappen to get sick of the the politics, sorry. The power struggles, the loss of Adrian Newey, the whispers that the team isn't what it's used to be, you know, and it isn't. It's not. And the moment that happens, the moment Verstappen says, I'm out, McLaren will be there, contract ready. Door open. Now, he could still re-sign Russell at the short term. No question. There's no question. Maybe a 1-year deal. Keep him warm. But even still at this stage, Russell would be pissed at a 1-year deal. Because he wants to be the guy now. He wants to be the number one. You know? It's almost like having an ex-boyfriend or ex-girlfriend or... no, it's almost like having a girlfriend or boyfriend. They don't want to do a certain thing with you, but they did it with their previous. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of like that. Do you really see Verstappen in that silver sort of black suit? I don't know, lads. And that silver car. McLaren imploding from their own internal rivalry and Mercedes back on top. Imagine that. 5 world championships for Verstappen if he doesn't win this year's one, which it's not looking very good now. That's the long game, but that's what Toto's waiting for. And honestly, the more you look at it, the more you realize how strategic this is. Because if Toto wasn't waiting for something massive, he'd have signed him months ago. Easy decision. He's got the guy. He's got his golden boy, the guy that he can rely on. Why wouldn't you rely on that? Now, guys, I want to go on to the next talking point here because this was a minor incident in qualifying. But to me, this is a big one because it keeps happening over and over again at not every race, but a lot of the races and a lot of the qualifyings we get to. The yellow flag incident with Oscar Piastri, right? No, it wasn't a end of qualifying, end of, oh dear Lord, it's all over. No, but there was a moment when Oscar Piastri, he's on a qualifying lap. I think it was in Q2. And 3 corners ahead, a car goes off. Now, he doesn't go off as in into the gravel, crash the car, end of qualifying. He just goes wide. Now, he went wide, and the moment he went wide, the yellow flag comes out, and the yellow light comes on in Oscar Piastri's steering wheel. Now, this is madness. Why? Because the last thing you want to do is slow up the race or slow up the qualifying, slow up the practice, whatever it is. You don't want to tie up the session. So the last thing you do is put out, like the last thing you want to do as a marshal is put out those flags, right? You're looking for excuses not to put them out. Problem is, they don't have experienced marshals at all of these tracks. I'm not having a go off marshals, and I'm telling you, my hat goes off to these guys because a lot of them, love you lads, especially when I was racing, these guys, they break their backs working, they're saints. A lot of them are Formula 1 fans. A lot of them are just racing fans, and that they're hard-working people, especially when they're volunteering. Now, in Formula 1, I don't know if they're getting paid or not. In fact, I'll look into that more. There is some times that I think they are volunteer. I could be wrong. But a lot of the time, they just love to be around the racing, right? Problem is that, and I can understand it too, you get nervous. Like you're like, oh my God, I'm doing a Formula 1 and oh my God, there's Lewis Hamilton, there's Max Verstappen, oh my God. I get it, of course, anybody who's a marshal like that, that's tough. It's tough. And, I marshaled for like one race. We had to do it when I was racing in karts. It was part of the Irish Karting Championship that every racing driver for one round had to marshal. I can't remember why, but we had to. But if we did, we would actually gather points for our championship. Weird, but hey, we all did it anyway. And it's tough, man, because you're responsible. Like that. Oh man, if I put out this flag, oh God, it's going to affect this guy or that girl. Yeah, like it's tough. Believe me, don't make no mistake about it. It's not as easy as you think, lads. But the problem here is that it's not necessarily the marshal's fault. It's the coaching, really, I think. It's the lack of experience and the FIA allowing the guys with lack of experience to come in. It's not right. It's not fair. It's not fair on the marshal. It's not fair on the racing drivers. It's not fair on the FIA. It's not fair on anybody. It's not fair, And I, if you think I'm having a sort of a subtle dig at marshals, I'm not. Because believe me, I was probably useless as a marshal when I was doing it, right? Because it is a tough job. And, you need to know all the flags, the racing, you've got carts whizzing by you and the sound, and all of a sudden your favorite driver's going past and you're like his biggest fan. It's a lot to take in for a marshal. you know, and these guys, they're probably there free. They're probably been at the track since 6 o'clock in that morning, maybe even earlier, and there is a lot of stuff to go through. I mean, it can be a lot for these guys. Now, here was the problem. So like I said, guys, back to the issue here. Oscar Piastri was three corners away. Now, when I say 3 corners, you could still see the third corner up. So in other words, Oscar Piastri was going into that left-hander. Now, about 200 yards up was the other 2 corners, right? So he was going into the first part, then there was the other 2. All right, so sorry, I was getting that wrong. So it was the left, then there was the right kink, and then into the left, right? So he was going into that left-hander, up on the left-hander past the right-hander, the guy goes wide. Straight away, out comes the yellow. And the problem is, then they were looking at penalising Oscar Piastri for that move. Well, first of all, it wasn't a move. They even said move, right? They were trying to penalise him for this move. What, really? What? Like, and believe me, guys, I get it as a racing driver. I've been here millions of times. The yellow flag comes out. Sometimes you just don't see it. Sometimes you just don't see it. Now, even for the bright lights at Singapore, Oscar Piastri, Lord knows, I mean, they even talk about it. The amount of light that they put on that street for that Singapore track is insanity. It's insanity. So even with the bright lights of Singapore, the bright lights of the lights itself, there could have been a shine on the steering wheel. There could have been a glint down on top of Piastri himself. And for a split second, he didn't see that light come on. Okay? The light comes on his steering wheel. So, hey, buddy, you need to slow down. And he did slow down. He just was delayed. He was just delayed. So the car goes off wide. Yellow flag comes out. Yellow flag comes on the steering wheel. And then they're looking into penalising him. Guys, you know, we really need to start looking at this more. Guys, I'm not a marshal. You know, God love these lads. The volunteers, even the guys who get paid to, whatever it is. You know, they give up their weekends. They're going away from their families. They're in the roasting heat. You know, they don't get recognition for all the hard work they put in. They don't. And, but like a yellow flag, it's not a toy. It's not a just in case thing. It's serious, lads. And, you only throw it out when you have to. And, if you do it wrong, you can wreck somebody's qualifying. You can wreck somebody's race. It can wreck championships. It can wreck a lot of things. There's a huge ripple effect from one bad decision with marshalling. We've got sensors, cameras, race control systems. There's no excuse for it anymore. I mean, why not? Why not do this? I mean, my father has a karting track. On all his karts, he's got a remote control that the marshals themselves who work up there, they actually carry it around with them. The guys can press one button, ding, and slow every kart down. Now, they don't do it to mess with people, never. They just only do it if there's an accident on track. So in other words, get everybody slowed down, and off they go again. And it's a very good safety thing, a very, very effective safety thing. And if you can have that in karts, well, why not have that in Formula 1? Seriously, I mean, why not? Have the marshals there, okay? Have them at the track because, God forbid, touch wood to all the drivers and the marshals that their health is and their safety's okay. Have the marshals at the track because if somebody does crash off and, the marshals need to get the cars out of the gravel or get them, move the cars out of the space, well then, yeah. But if you're really concerned about the safety, why not just have like what my dad has at karting? Kart level. We're talking Formula 1 here. If my dad and his boys can press a button, slow all the karts down, why don't the FIA do the same thing? All right, lads, let's look at the permutations, calculations. Who needs to do what? Because this is where it gets juicy now. And by the way, I hope you can't hear what I'm hearing here. There's a gym right next door to our studio here, lads, and there's about 20, 30 grown-ass men and women screaming their asses off. I'm deadly serious. They're all just screaming. I think it's one of those, let it all out therapy sessions. Anyway, right. Singapore. The sweatbox of Formula 1. And lads, it was a great race in many ways. George Russell, out of nowhere, that was a shock. I don't think anybody really predicted that Mercedes were going to just stick it on pole and then go off and win the race. I mean, it was easy. Job done. But there you go. So you got George Russell winning, Verstappen second, Norris in third, and Piastri fourth. So definitely helped to eat into the points, but that's not the real story, is it, lads? The story is it's the championship now, getting down to it. Max Verstappen is still in this game. The McLaren boys, they're suddenly human again, showing a bit of cracks like we saw in Baku, showing a bit of that maybe they're just not on the pace because they're feeling the pressure. You know, maybe it is that. And no doubt about it, lads. The pressure is building. There is no two ways about it. You know, the slow tightening of that rope going around their neck. Now, McLaren, they can take a bit of pressure off now. They've won the Constructors. But at least now it gets all their focus on the two boys. Get the championship in the bag. And I always say it, winning the championship is like winning the Oscar. Winning the Constructors is like winning the SAG Award. It's a great achievement. People give you validation. But no one knows of the SAG Award. You know, it's all about the Oscar. No one says, oh, he won the SAG. No, everybody's on it. Oh, he won the Oscar. Whoa, good for him. See what I mean? Now, the points as it is, lads. Let me look at my screen here. So, Piastri's on 336, Norris on 314, and Verstappen on 273. So there's your holy trinity right there, lads. And which camera am I? Oh, I'm looking here. So that's, I mean, if you look at those points, lads, that's only 22 points between Piastri and Norris. That's not much. It's not much. Now remember, only 2 races ago, it was 31. So, you know, you jumped forward 2 races. What if that's what if that's 10 points soon? Could easily happen. Now, you've got McLaren, who, I mean, they've been running Formula 1 season, and I think that in a way they're kind of probably sweating bullets. Yes, they wrapped up the Constructors. That pressure's off. But you got to go on and win the Drivers' Championship, man. There's no two ways about it, because you don't just walk off into the sunset with the Constructors' Championship. You need to clinch both, and that's extremely important. And you know, Verstappen and Red Bull, they're not done. These guys aren't going to try and fade away off quietly into the night here. They want to get McLaren, and I wouldn't blame them. Now, the question is, who's going to blink? Piastri, the golden child? Norris, the hometown hero who's starting to feel the heat? And Verstappen, the man who just won't go away. Okay, lads. So, what do these 3 drivers need to do to win the championship? Now, we've put it up. I'm bringing up my screen here, so just bear with me. Now, guys, I went through a lot of permutations. ChatGPT helped me to figure out all of the points based on where they are, and 3 sprint races left with 8 points for the win. Right? I won't go on. But I put it down to just simple English here for all of us, all right? Even when I looked at it, my head started melting. So, nice and simple English. Okay, what does Piastri need to do to win the championship? Right, let's have a look. From here on out, he just needs to finish on the podium. A second or third in every race from here. He doesn't even have to win. He just needs to finish second or third. Lads, that's a nice little security blanket. You've got to stay on your game, stay on your toes, but that's not bad, right? That is a nice area to be in, because there won't be any panic. Now, Lando Norris, this is quite interesting. Okay, where do we have for Norris? We've got, okay, if he wins 2 of the next 3 races, the whole fight flips. But if Oscar finishes ahead of him even once in the next couple, he's done. Well, okay. Lando Norris has got to become an assassin, a killer. He has to go all gloves off. There is no, oh, well, it's nice to finish second and finish for the boys. Screw that. You've got no excuses now. You've won the Constructors. There's no, let's do it for the team. No, they've had their moment. It's done. Now it's the drivers. Okay? All focus on the drivers. That's it. Now, where does it leave Max? Let's have a look for Max here now, lads. Okay. He needs to win 4 of the next 6 races. Oof. 4. Plus he needs to pick up some sprint wins too. That's the math. That's the math. That's a tough ask, lads. He can't afford a single DNF, not one. Even if he finishes 4th even once, it's over. That's a tough ask. That's a tough ask. And it's very hard to know how his car is going to perform. I think in Vegas, he's going to be lethal because the engine straights. But that's only one of 6 races left. So let's wrap this up, lads. This is where we stand. 6 races, 3 sprints, and 3 drivers. Piastri just needs to chill. Take it easy. Stay where you are because he's been in the top 3 all year. So that's all he needs to do. Stay where you are, my man. Norris needs to attack. All gloves off. And Verstappen needs to go nuclear. It's war time for Verstappen. So guys, let's wrap this up. 2 weeks time, we've got America. It'll be a good race. It's going to be hard to see who's going to perform there. McLaren will definitely be on it. The bumps might take out Verstappen and Red Bull off the top spot. Hard to know. We're going to see, of course, but let's see what happens. There's one thing for sure, guys. We thought this was an open shut case really for McLaren all year. Well, I certainly felt that anyway. And there's been very pleasant surprises along the way. So hopefully we've got a lot more to come. 6 races, 3 sprints. See you for America, lads.
Walsh running the Irish green, and look at the move he's making down to the inside.
Moves to the front. What a move from 5th all the way to the lead in lap 1.
Walsh takes win number 2.
Peter. Walsh.